What's been the most surprising part to you about motherhood to 2?
My daughter is 4.5 and she's just this phenomenal human that has these reasoning skills. Like the other day we were building a fire and my husband's like, Harper, you never throw a log in the fire. That's super dangerous. Fire will burn you. If you throw the log, the flame will come get you. And she's like, Dad, I'm not actually going to throw it. It's like when you say you're going to jump in the shower and you walk in the shower. She's like, relax. Like literally, I'm like, you are a grown up.
Being a mom is the toughest job there is, and it doesn't come with instructions. So it's okay if you don't have all the answers. We'll figure it out together. This is Mom Brain with Hilaria Baldwin and Daphne Oz.
I'm Elizabeth Chambers Hammer. I'm the mom of 2 delicious babes, Harper and Ford, 4.5 and 2.5. And I'm the CEO and founder of Bird Bakery, a TV host, judge on Food Network, and a mom.
But I do want to hear about cupcakes because
I know. I love that everyone in your family's a baker.
Yes, everyone. I mean, what better thing in this world than sweets? And what like more nostalgic sweet is there than cupcakes and cakes? Like I feel like it's such a labor of love to make a cake. It's such a labor of love to bake anything. And to me, a cake is just indicative of a celebration. And shouldn't life just be about the celebrations? Like there are enough setbacks in this world, and I feel like everything, like it's Friday before my daughter's graduation, it should be a celebration, like, and I kind of try to instill that in my kids, and I love that about the bakeries. Like I opened our first location 7 years ago, and the journeys that we've been on with our customers, you know, obviously like a cupcake is less of a commitment to a cake, so people will come in and we just want a cupcake, it's the last day of school, or we want a cupcake, they just won their softball game, which to me is just like more of a way to celebrate. So we have customers who have been, they came on their very first date and we were closing and I could tell that they were like so cute and in love, and even though it was their first date, and opened up the bakery for them and they got a dozen cupcakes and enjoyed them on their car, in the back of their car. And then we did their huge wedding cake, which was like the base was the biggest cake we've ever done, 28 inches. And then it was like 6-tier. I had to, speaking of Sprinter vans, we had to rent like a refrigerated truck because it was before we actually had them when we first opened, like drive it to the hill country where my husband and I were in the back holding their cake, just hoping it didn't collapse with like, it was
stressful.
Yes. But
so
like,
this is like a real family operation. Like you and your husband are doing a delivery.
I mean,
I'm baking all the cakes. I'm in there and I'm baking all the cakes.
Thankfully now we have almost 100 employees and opening our 3rd location. And so I'm thankfully can be with my children and not baking all the cakes.
That's
but
amazing.
Yeah, we did their wedding, we did their first baby shower, we did their gender reveal, and now we've done their 3rd baby shower. And like to
Loyal
be there,
customers.
Exactly.
And you were there on their first date.
To be there on their first date,
That's
it's just like
crazy.
that's what it's about to me, and that's what I love about a cake, and that's what I love about a cupcake.
There is something also beautifully nostalgic, and I don't like so ingrained in my whatever Americana recess of my memory of like a cake on the kitchen counter, you know, that everyone's taking their slices off of maybe of a slice with coffee for breakfast.
Kids get
it feels so fancy.
Excited. You know, I let them, we have dessert almost every single night. And throughout the day, they eat really clean, really well. I mean, of course, can we have treats sometimes, but I try to like have them eat really solid throughout the day. And then at night, they get to like choose something. And you know, in New York, we can walk across the street and go to this bakery, or we go up and go to a market or whatever. And they get really excited to pick something different. When we go get cupcakes, even like the tiny little ones, they just think it's so magical because there's sprinkles on top and they're different colors. And
it's their own. They're like, oh, I don't have to share this with someone. I can choose exactly the flavor I want, and I get the buttercream, I get the cake, I get if it's frosting filled, which is super exciting for them. Like it's just their own personal cake.
We're also at the age where then we have to put a candle in it and we have to sing happy birthday to all of them, which takes a while because I have a lot of children.
Exactly.
Wait, so what prompted you to open? It's Bird Bakery,
Bird
right?
Bakery,
And what sort of prompted you to open it? What was that initial stage like? I mean, I think it was before you had your first child.
It was my first child.
It was your first child. So talk to us a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit. I think is in a lot of moms, and everyone's a little bit afraid of the time commitment and of the various hurdles that are inevitably there. And I would love to hear a little bit about that process.
No, it was like truly the most difficult thing I'd ever done. I studied journalism. I was a anchor at Al Gore's network Current TV for 4.5 years. At the point I had like when I decided to open the bakery, I basically had 3 shows that were all canceled within 2 weeks. and one was for ratings. One network just went away. Like, there was all different reasons. And I always knew I'm just a very goal-oriented person. Like, I was like, okay, by the time I'm 40, I will host a Today Show, or like be a correspondent for the Today Show. By the time I'm 50, I'll open a bakery. And I don't know why and how I ever thought I would have the energy at 50 to open the bakery. It's a really good thing I did it at 28 and not 50. So basically, when they were canceled, I just felt completely out of control. I was like, you should go to work every day. You show up, you do your job. And this is completely for reasons beyond me. And that's, as you know, the entertainment industry, as you both know. So I thought this is a perfect time to execute one of my goals. And so I had flown back I was like in Tokyo for a job and flown back and flown through San Antonio and wanted a cupcake because I'd like only had Japanese desserts. And you know, when you come back to America, I mean, England is one thing, but like even when I'm in Paris, like I come and I just want a nostalgic American dessert. And the only cupcakes that they had available were from the grocery store. And, you know, living in LA, we do not settle for grocery store cupcakes. I mean, sometimes if you really just want that, then you get that.
So there's something about a pop-em every once in a while that really like gets me.
True. I've had a really good cake from Ralph's the other day. I was like, who is this? And then I was like, I was like, wait, and so you asked for the whipped cream instead of the buttercream? Like, that's the Ralph's hack?
Oh, that's
so I learned, whole nother Oprah.
Thank you, Sash. I hate you for revealing that to me.
So I always knew I wanted to open in San Antonio. My grandmother had a catering company there. I knew at that point that the market was very ready and ripe, and they didn't have any other cupcake stores, and that I could basically continue my grandmother's legacy. She was very British and did things like lemon curd and English trifle, but I always knew I wanted to do American nostalgia. So I take her boiled custard and turned it into our banana pudding. And then my mom actually at age 27 opened the first health food store in San Antonio, and so I wanted to be near her. So my bakery is like a stone's throw away from where my mom's first store was, and then we're 3-4 blocks from where my grandmother's kitchen was. And those are like my earliest childhood memories of baking, were sitting in her kitchen, smelling like just all the incredible smells from her oven with her window fan on because it's 9 million degrees. And I was always there in the summer when I was out of school. And I would go like in her walk-in refrigerators and just find her little boats that were made of sugar cookies, like our sugar cube boats, and then dip them in the lemon curd and think that she had no idea I was in there. I was just like, I'm cooling off. Don't mind me. But yeah, so it was a full circle, and I felt like she was there. And even when I'm there like late at night, early in the morning, I feel like she's always with me. So it was definitely an homage to her and a reason and a way to keep our family recipes alive.
And what's it been like juggling now that you have the kids? What's that sort of, I mean, the business was more set up by then, 3 years into it, but what was that like, you know, with a newborn and then a second newborn?
I couldn't have done it, I don't think, at the time, for sure. I mean, I can say to this day, starting my company was the most difficult thing I've ever done. It's more difficult than being a mom. It's more difficult than anything I've done in television. Like, I think in the 80s or the 90s or in the past, like 100 years ago, if you're going to open a bakery, you would be an apprentice at a bakery for 40 years before you're ready at 60 to open. And really, I mean, I had never done it, and I didn't have any, there's no book on it. And so I had the recipes. I love to bake. I knew I was a really good baker. I also knew that I was killing myself like the first year trying to do everything: decorate, bake, payroll, make sandwich. Because then after 2 weeks, we started doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it just was truly. And then, you know, if you, or like one day I need to sleep in, and then your baker doesn't show up and the decorator's there at 5 a.m. The baker was supposed to be at 3. You get a call. Like, you literally finally are only sleeping for 4 hours for the first time in like months. And then you get full thing, hi, we're opening in 3 hours and we have no product. Like, literally the definition of insanity is opening a business where you have to create all of your inventory from scratch every day. Right. I would look across the street at people like opening a clothing store and just dusting the windows. I was like, I really screwed up. Like, what was I thinking? This is a terrible idea.
And also, you can't rush baking.
No.
It's not like you're like, oh shit, I'm behind.
Exactly.
Let me just like bake a cake real fast.
Exactly. No, that has to
cool.
Parfaits
for days.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing.
I'm not a baker. I love to cook, but I'm not a baker. But I'm obsessed with cake videos on Instagram.
You are.
I love it. And I don't even, I mean, I like cake, but
There's
it's not like I'm like
for that kind of porn. Like
it is. It's totally up.
Cake
It's
porn.
totally
They're
up.
swirling
When they
the
they
cake.
swirl it, and then my favorite is when they have like the layers, and then they cut it at the end, and you see all of the different colors inside. Not anything I really want to eat, but it's so beautiful. And so I was like, I want to go and learn to do that. And so my friend was like, great, let's go do it together. And then she shows me this like class schedule, and I'm like, why is it like 7 hours long? And she's like, because you have to wait while it cooks. Yes. And I was like, oh, yep, nope, done. All I want to do is the spinning part. I just want to decorate it and cut it at the end.
Give me the YouTube version of that.
Exactly. It happens in 60 seconds on Instagram. What is this 7 hours?
There's no Instagram version in a real bakery, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Do your kids cook with you?
They do. They love to cook, and they left them some. They always like want to make cookies and pies, and so often I will just say, like I'll take expired spices and let them make pies, or like last weekend we made flour pies because they love the process of it. But like, my gosh, between like making like I love to cook almost as many meals as I can for them, and so it'll buy you an hour. Tell them to go make flour pies. They go pick the flowers, they cut them up, then you give them like sugar, flour, eggs. They mix up. You put it in the oven. It smells amazing. Nobody eats it. Nobody eats it. I mean, because we bake enough stuff that they actually eat. Right. And then they can also do it. Like, they can't make a buttermilk pie unsupervised. But a flour pie, get it,
like
girls.
Flowers, like as in like flowers that you.
Yeah, they just go like they'll literally spend an hour in the garden like finding flowers, or like they'll take the wagon and go up and down the street and find flowers.
Oh, that's so
and then they cut them all up, and then but like. Obviously, if you're making chocolate chip cookies, you can't let them make them on their own. Right. The beauty of flour pies is they're their own things. Yeah. Exactly. They'll add sand. They think they need rocks, so they'll add rocks to it.
My kids do that. They make potions out of like outdoor
it's such a
stuff.
Like Carmen's really into that phase right now. And she's like, and I need. She says a tinge. Is that even a real word? A tinge. I need a tinge of this, and I'm like, okay, I don't know that word,
but there are. I mean,
like
actually, speaking of YouTube, there are. I think so. A tinge, whatever. There are YouTube videos of bakers for kids that are like have 15 million views on them. I mean, it's the most insane thing. But I think it's actually such a nice way also to teach them independence of like they get to do something that mommy loves to do that they see you do. Yes. They have a lot of pride in that. You don't have to worry about them making something that they can't eat because you know they can't eat
Exactly.
But I also think that there is a creative thing because like I learned to cook when I was little and by older women in my family who would like just teach me all the recipes and stuff like that. And I think the ability to be creative with it allows me to go in and make dinner for my family and not have a recipe. Exactly. I don't usually cook from a recipe. I either have recipes all in my head. I mean, and that's different with baking, I'm sure, because it has to be much more exact.
But we cook meals for our family much more than we bake. I mean, we're not baking 3 times a day for our family. Like,
I mean, the kids aren't just eating cake all day.
Exactly. I mean, they would love that. I like you. I'm like, I also believe that I would never serve anything at our bakeries that I wouldn't serve my own children. So like our monster cookies are made with non-hydrogenated, like it's not organic and it's not vegan, but I try to go as natural as possible. No hydrogenated oils, like even our tomato basil soup is organic. And and I think like I really do think you can treat yourself well if you're not eating Crisco frosting instead eating like buttercream that's actually made with farm fresh eggs with whole milk.
Your body knows how to process that.
Exactly.
Your body knows how to, and it feels like a treat, and it actually counts for something in your mind. So you don't need to, have it every day for every meal.
Exactly.
Although I'm sure you'd like it. Yes. Frequent customers.
If Daphne and I lived with you, we would have like a solid week of just binging.
I always wonder about that too, because there are lots of professional bakers who are very thin, and I'm like, how do you do this? Because I would be 8,000 pounds if I was around.
Did I ever tell you the story about this? So I'm a yoga teacher, and I had a woman who lost a lot of weight when I was working with her. And some of it obviously is the exercise, but she was very focused on her diet because most of being thin is diet, or being healthy and being fit, whatever word that you want or whatever you're striving for. And she said, I spoke with a chef and I said, how are you so thin? And she said, well, the first taste is the experience. The second one, you're reliving the experience. And then the third time, you've already done it before, so what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And that's that just kind of like the tasting thing. And I think that that's what we have to get our mind around. I mean, for me, I know I love wine. And so when I drink a glass of wine, I notice the first sip is like so much different flavor. And then by the end of the first glass, it doesn't taste like that much anymore. So then it's like, I mean, I I don't drink a lot, but I do really enjoy it. And I think that I try to stay with the taste experience of it, and that's how I don't overdo it.
I had that 2-bite rule at the Chew, and now I feel like I've forgotten it. I need to go back to it.
How many Sour Patch Kids have we had today?
We've been good. We've been moderate. And the wine thing I think is tricky too. It's been a long time since I've had like a full glass of wine, so I'm looking forward to it. Perhaps too much.
I really enjoy it in between my pregnancies because there's usually not a lot.
That's
of
what
time.
I say. I'm always like, I'm going to drink while I'm not pregnant.
Yes.
And I'll be really good when I'm pregnant, but when I'm not, like, I will have that spicy margarita on a Monday night with dinner. Sorry. But I'll
nothing
be
to be sorry
in 5 minutes if I have it my way.
Nothing to be sorry for.
I feel like
100%.
Wait, so when do you think timing for the third? Like, what's your thought on that?
I mean, I really would like a Virgo. I know I'm not even like a person who reads my horoscope a lot, but
I have 2 Virgos.
I want a Virgo.
I have no Virgo. I might have a Virgo.
You know when your last one was like,
When's your actual due date?
The
Good.
but it's like the cusp. It's right there.
I have
So,
a cusp baby.
yeah.
They're tricky. So my daughter's August 23rd, and she's just a tough. And I was like, everybody's like, oh, Virgos, they're so like balanced and everything. I'm like, not my daughter. And then somebody told me about cusp. They were born within the 17th and the 23rd. Then you're a cusp baby, and you're a mix of the two. So she's definitely a lot of Leo.
Leo's fun. I think
I'm a
Leo's a
double
lot
Leo.
of
Leo's,
fun.
you are, yeah.
You're a
Yeah,
double
fire.
Leo?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Leo rising.
Oh,
That's
very interesting. Okay,
you're
and
like
what's your
feisty.
husband?
He's a Virgo. Like everyone in my life is a Virgo. It's
That's
so
funny
weird.
that you like gravitate towards that sign. My husband's a Leo. And I don't know. I feel like
I always get along. Not only, but I have a lot of Cancers in my life because I'm a
Interesting.
Capricorn.
Yeah.
And so we're supposed to be like really, and it is true. Like I have so many good friends that are Cancer.
It's so weird how that.
And my second child was supposed to be a Cancer, and then he was born a month early. Yes.
Were all of your babies early?
No. Yeah. Well, first one was 3 days early, which is I feel like doesn't count. Second one was 35 weeks, 6 days. That was the only very early one.
how do you remember this stuff? Like with this many babies later, I'm like, I don't know. They're like asking me how much they weighed. I'm like, someone was 8 pounds.
It was also like a big deal that he was like, and I was in labor for 23 hours, so I actually went into labor at 35 weeks, 5 days. And they make every single day at that point.
It
they
counts.
make a big
Yeah.
deal about
That's
it.
true. That's true.
So and he was fine. He was 6 pounds 7 ounces, which for a baby that early is like a giant
That
baby.
is huge.
And then my third one was 38 weeks, and my last one was 39 weeks, and I was induced with him.
Wow.
So
But you talked about. I was reading about. What is it? Placenta Previa? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
so did you have your baby early?
No, both of my babies were super late. I'm always late.
But you had placenta previa and
So my daughter was actually 15 days late. Like
Wait, what?
15 days late, and we shouldn't have let her go that long.
So uncomfortable.
Those are the longest 15 days.
I honestly didn't care. Like I didn't want to be induced, and to me it was so important that she just came when she was going to come, and also I had so many more things to do that I was like,
You're
I
like,
know
we're
this
not
is
ready.
this is the most convenient you're ever gonna be.
Busy. It is true. That
It's
is
true. I was like, I am not done with my to-do list. So you just
But
stand there.
also, due dates are estimates. Like I think that's part of
Exactly.
it gets you all like amped up for the specific day, but they're just guessing. It's not
Exactly.
really like that precise. And better not to rush them out because then you pay the price.
I don't know.
Pitocin, you pay the price.
I induced my last baby, and I was very nervous about it. And I was like, the fourth one, I was like, oh, this one's gonna come like this. And then I had extra water, so I kept on going into labor, and then he would float out, and then
So
the
crazy.
cord was around, and that's complicated because if your water breaks, first of all, your belly just gets huge. It's very, very, very uncomfortable. And then if your water breaks, you can have cord prolapse where the cord comes out first, which is very, very dangerous. So we waited until the 39 weeks, and they induced me, and it was like the most lovely experience of my life. Like
Did you do
epidural?
An epidural, yeah.
All 4 of them.
See that I was induced with my second with no epidural, and it was like
Hell.
it was
horrible.
29 hours
Of full-blown labor.
Absolute like my body shut down, like shivering, cold. Like it was.
I always
cranked it
shiver,
up,
though.
and they just cranked it up, and they're like, this baby needs to come, so they kept inducing, and they're like, you're the maximum. I was like, I can feel that. Thank you for letting me know.
You. I am
Did you do
literally
no epidural for both?
For Harper, but then for Ford, like finally I was like, just give me a walking. I can't at 28 hours literally of
agony.
Yes, of Pitocin.
When they tell, so that's exactly what happened to me with our third, where it was our third. Everyone thought she was going to come. Not that I've always needed to have like the membrane strip to just to start the labor going, but after 28 hours of true agony, because they had to induce her, and then they kept cranking the Pitocin, which just makes you in full-blown labor before your body's ready to do that. And I wasn't dilating all this stuff, and they were like, we don't know what else to do for you. And they literally said to me, you could be feeling this for the next 10 minutes or the next 10 hours. And when they tell you that after you've been like writhing in pain, struggling. And also even the nurses were coming by being like, are you sure you want to keep doing this? Like that they were looking at me like I was insane. They gave me the epidural and I gave birth 10 minutes later. I was like,
gosh. I know.
You're
like,
somebody.
What did I just
No, but I mean at the same time it's all ends as long as the baby comes out fine and you're fine, whatever it is. I think that people start obsessing so much about these certain things because we're trying to have control over an experience that there's not a lot of control about.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that so funny, the difference between your first, like my first one, I was like, so this is a playlist.
Yes.
I will
this
be
is my
doing,
aromatherapy.
Yes, I will be doing my hypnobirthing. Here's my sign, which I printed and laminated for not one, but
ready.
3 doors in case there are other entryways. Like, I was so crazy. I was like, I'll have the view of the city as I like deliver. Like, it was so different.
Wait until number 4.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I have to say though, like there's a lot of fear that's around this because it can be really scary. And once I realized it wasn't so bad. And I've talked about it before on Mom Brain, but you haven't heard where, I was not sure. I didn't have a birth plan. I'm so easygoing with almost everything to a fault sometimes. Like I'll be like, sure, I'll go over there, and it's like dangerous, but like not always smart. But with my, I decided to have an epidural because they suggested it, and I was like, oh, okay. I did most of my labor for my first one and my second one with no epidural. My third one, there wasn't enough water with the third one, which was interesting about the fourth one. And so they sent me in to get induced, and all of a sudden I went into labor on my own, like before anything. They were like, wow, you're having like a really normal contraction. I'm like, yeah, I know. I think I'm in labor. And then like I was just in labor. And then with that one, they have the walking epidural, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting for the epidural, but I did all of my labor in the hospital, which was my first time doing that. And finally the woman comes in and she's like, are you one of those women that thinks that an epidural is going to slow down your labor? I was like, yes, that would be me. And she said, I wish you guys would stop thinking this. This is not true. She said, I do so many epidurals every single day, and is one of the things that drives me really crazy. Now, again, this is her opinion. Right. I know that epidural is such a sensitive topic, so I never want to
I don't think people think it slows it down.
They think it slows down the labor and makes it more. Have you seen The Business of Being Born?
No.
If you want to see it, it's kind of scary, but people get very into it. I mean, in terms of like they are afraid that epidural is going to raise their chances of having a C-section. But the problem is that you can't relive that particular birth. And I've had 4 kids. You had 2.
They're all different.
You're about to have 4. They're all different, and you can't be like, okay, well, let me try again and see what happens if I didn't use an epidural. It's like it just is the way that it is. But anyway, she told me, and then she said there's a walking epidural, and it was like the most magical thing. She said,
feel
do me a favor.
everything.
You feel everything. It just numbs it a little bit. So allow me to be more present for the experience.
And like it takes away the edge. It's like having 5 glasses of wine and going to labor.
It's your margarita.
Exactly. It's your spicy marg.
But
no, it's true. Like it really does. And I feel like that, I don't know how many hospitals offer that, but it was for me.
I think it's a really common thing now, walking epidural.
Yeah, for me it was the perfect happy medium, and it was like a really great happy medium between the two. And like I felt everything and experienced everything. And then I was like, why was I so stupid with the first? Next time I'm just going to walk off the elevator and be like, give me the walker.
Exactly.
Give me that walker.
We got a walker here. Walker.
Exactly.
No, but the interesting thing about being induced was like, they give you the epidural before starting everything. So it was really a weird.
Oh, interesting.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I'm not sure if that's true. That might not be true. Okay, take that back. Rewind. Trying to remember. No, they like put some stuff, but before they give you a lot of pain, they do the epidural. I remember that. It was weird, like going in for like an appointment.
I'm actually, I take that back. I'm joking. I'm not going to walk up the elevator. I'm going to like try, because I still one day want to be one of those women that's just like, it slipped out. And after 2 labors that were over 28 hours, I do not think I'm ever going to be, but like maybe one day.
No, I have to say that the long labor is actually a blessing. I mean, you don't want it to be like too long, because you get to like, I don't have a plan, but I like to like do certain things. Like I want to make sure my doctor is there.
Yes.
I want to make sure that like everything is like all situated in their place. Like I don't need to have a playlist. I don't need to have any kind of like bells or or like crystals or anything, but like I want to like make sure that the right people are there. I liked it the last 2 times. I go in without my husband because he stresses me out. And then I invite him when I'm ready for him. And then I want him to be there when I'm pushing. And then there you go.
That's perfect. So you have a system.
I have my system. And if I had a short labor, then I would not be able to have my system.
Your system needs time to be executed.
Well, have you heard, she was public about this, so I can say it. But so, you know, Seth Meyers, his wife, Alexi, who's amazing, she delivered in her hallway or in her lobby because she has really fast labors. Now that is like,
that's a lot. One of my best friends just delivered.
She did. She caught her own baby.
What?
I know. Seth was talking about it on a show. Like, her son is the same age as Romeo. No, she literally
what about
like.
The cord? But see, like the doctor in me that like
she
that
literally
been
caught her own baby, and then she was freaking out because the floor is dirty. So she was like trying to hold on. They
but
had
like
a
who
coat.
clipped the cord and who pulled the rest?
Talk about a delayed cord
The ambulance came.
It was 3 hours later.
The ambulance came.
Oh my God!
I know.
Wait, what?
I know, she's amazing. I'm trying to get her.
Did you
to
say
come on
someone
to
gave birth in a trunk?
One of my friends just had a baby 3 months ago, and literally the back of her Tesla. I was like, the picture is astonishing. She's like, and it's so.
We know Nasiba. We can see that she's like all like, you know, she has it all together all the time.
That's amazing to me. I'm like, part of me is like, that's how it should be done. Like not actually in the trunk, but you know, like in the fields, like in the yurt. We were talking about this earlier today. That a part of me, a really weird hippie part of me, wants to like, you know, just have it be very nature and just, you know, very.
Oh no, I know. I was born in a birthing center. Yeah. Like I love the idea of like a water birth, and then you kind of see the videos and you're like, I like the idea of like a clean water birth. Like I don't like a bathtub doesn't sound bad to me, but you just can't really do it in LA. I asked
no, they're
about
very resistant, and in New York too. They're very like my doctor, who we talked about this too. Like it's about surrounding yourself with a team that you trust their judgment. You know that they respect and value what you want, but they're also going to give you their best medical advice. And she said to me, she was like, the birthing floor is on the 7th floor and the OR is on the 8th. And the difference of waiting 3 minutes for the elevator to get you to the OR could be the difference between you having, God forbid, like a brain dead baby or you bled out or whatever. And like, I can't take that risk, which is terrifying.
all you need to hear,
and all you need
way.
to hear. You
You're
need
like,
to hear that.
I'm not. It's one thing what I want, but it's another thing for the well-being of my child.
My doctor said, as I was, you know, the first time around, as I was kind of like going for the Eastern versus Western, he said, Hilaria, childbirth is not benevolent. And a lot of people used to die. And a lot of kids used to die. Like mothers died, kids died. He said, now we have a system
forgotten about that.
Yeah.
That like just how much the birthing process, you are really at that divide between life and death. And this very, like we are very comfortable and confident as we should be in our expert care, but it is still a really dangerous, delicate balance.
And a lot can go wrong.
And you never want to be
Which
that
doesn't mean
person,
that we have to be afraid of it, but at the same time, I think if the options are out there to do it in the safest way possible, even if it feels like if it's overkill, you know, surround yourself by people that you trust.
Exactly.
You know,
No,
I mean,
true.
my doctor, I've said, you know, he's so Western, is so different from me, but I completely trust him. And I know if God forbid something happens, he is going to be able to do the right thing for me and my baby.
Absolutely. And that's all that matters is their safety and well-being.
What's been the most surprising part to you about motherhood to 2? Like your first time versus your second time?
I just think there's stages at their different ages and how magical it is. Like right now is just like my daughter is 4.5 and she's just this phenomenal human that has these reasoning skills. Like the other day we were building a fire and my husband's like, Harper, throw that. She goes, I'm going to throw the log in the fire. And my husband's like, Harper, you never throw a log in the fire. That's super dangerous. Fire will burn you. If you throw the log, the flame will come get you. And she's like, Dad, I'm not actually going to throw it. It's like when you say you're going to jump in the shower and you walk in the shower. She's like, relax. Like literally, I'm like, you are English a grown up.
That's so
4 is
funny.
a crazy especially, I only have a girl who has turned 4 by now. It is a remarkable jump in intellect.
Teenagers.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And then the 2.5-year-old that's just like putting these words together and like, I love you, and just I want to massage your face, and like I'm sure he's gonna do something with faces. I don't even, maybe a plastic surgeon. I don't know. But
he
like
loves faces.
He has to outline my lips every morning.
They're such lovers.
So
my 2-year-old Leo, he's like a narrator right now. So everything is like, I will kiss your lips, and then you will close your eyes, and then
like I'm listening to an audiobook.
and then I'm going to say rawr. And then you're going to open up your eyes. And then you say, are you scary, Leo? Literally, everything he narrates. I turn the light on, and then I look at light, and it burns my eyes.
And the light is on, and the dog is doing this.
Yeah, and they just narrate
so
everything. They're so sweet. And then they're like little wild animals that drive you crazy, and then there's like really sweet again, and they just toy with our emotions.
No, but I do.
No,
I think
so
like
good.
the more you have, the more you can anticipate. The first time I feel like everything is just magical, and you're waiting to see what's next. And I think it's like going somewhere twice with the second one. You know where you're going, so you can almost really appreciate the milestones more, and like just appreciate things that maybe one child does that the other one didn't, or their different strengths and weaknesses, and not even strengths and weaknesses, but they're just different like personality quirks and what makes them tick. You're like, you are this fully magical human, and just like watching every part of that, and then challenging yourself as a mom to just be better. I'm like, oh my gosh, with Harper, I didn't think to do like this activity with her. I wasn't really into, I was like into sensory, but like taking it to the next level and figuring.
And they all need different things. But I'm going to be excited for you when you have your third, because for Daphne and I, we both have the same pattern. We had girl then boy, and whether you have boy girl or girl boy, you look at your girl and you say, all right, this is what, Alec and me, this is the kind of person that we make. This is the kind of girl we make. And then you have our boys. We have Raphael. Yeah. And we say, okay, this is the kind of boy we make. And then you have another one. For her it was girl. For me it was boy. And you're like, whoa. It's like we made a completely different
That's so
human.
crazy to me.
And it's because on some of it you just attribute to like, oh yeah, our girl is like this, or our boy is like this. And it's like, okay, well, our boy is like this. Then we have another boy. And then I had another boy after that. And you're going to have another girl. And you're like, well, they're all completely
They're different. They're totally little different beasties. And it was one of the first moments of becoming a mom that I realized how different my expectation of it was from the reality, was realizing that they were born with their little personalities intact.
They really are.
Like Philo fought out of her swaddle week 1. I mean, she was like, I'm having none of this. You will not trap me in this. I'm not lying on my
not be
back.
held down.
Like, I will not be held down. I'm turning on my side. I don't care what you say.
That's kind of like what you realize. Though. Like I have friends that my kids are, I have to say, like, so in some of my friends, I'm like, wow, really wild. It's like, is this your parody? And then you're like, no, they just come out like this. And like Ford is so, this is why, like I'm very much like fiery and direct, and he's super emotional. And somebody who is like really into signs told me, like, you're going to have to be like very like more emotionally available, and not that I'm not, but like he is just very much an observer, and you can tell like takes that emotion in. And my husband said the first 2 months he was born, he's like a disgruntled union worker that never got his break. Like he's just kind of pissed that he never got his break. And I was like, why is he so grumpy? Like I was really happy, and then I was like, oh, maybe it's because I was opening the second bakery and had to fire a bunch of people when I was pregnant. So as moms, we put it all on us.
Blame ourselves.
Yeah, I was like, I did have to fire that guy, and I was screaming, and I had a pit in my stomach because like I really like, and so I'm like literally going back like how many staff I fired 7 people I was pregnant, and that was emotional. That's why he's grumpy. I'm like, no, that's not why he's grumpy.
Are you good at dealing with confrontation? Like because I imagine, look, I think in this day and age, entrepreneur behavior / like the journey of it has been glorified in so many ways, and it seems very sexy and like cool, and we work for yourself and like all these amazing parts of it. But the firing element and or the other very difficult balancing of the books, all of that, like, are you good at that?
That's what I tell you, it is the most difficult thing. I spent 3 hours on the phone this morning with an employee who was who was terminated Friday, and since then has taken 4 checks that he like forged my manager's signature, like totaling $4,500, whatever, to be. And he was literally 2 weeks ago, I was at the bakery being like, sitting him down saying, you have so much potential to be a supervisor. I'm so impressed by your customer service. Like gave him the whole thing. I left Dallas to go to our San Antonio location. He had the biggest ego because I had given him this like, positive affirmation, and then became a nightmare. And then literally, so no, if it's not employees or customers or Yelp, it's always something. And I always say, I feel like as a parent, it was kind of like in school when you knew that 4.0 was the best you could do. Like I know I give my kids 1,000,000%. I know the best thing I can do is like put my phone away, focus on them. I know how to read them. Everything is really intuitive. I'm the oldest of 4 children, and my youngest brother was 8 years younger. So like I had changed more diapers by the time I was 12. I feel like the most, a lot of my friends were getting baby nurses, and I never did that. I just said, felt like my mom showed me how to do it. And I think probably as children in large families, you might
my
feel the same way.
brother's 13 years younger than I am. My siblings are all like, I felt like a live-in au pair / mother.
Totally.
Second mother to
I
all
literally
my
was convinced
siblings.
my mom only had 4 kids so we could do stuff for her.
I love that. There's a book that I forget what's the something bunny shoot, whatever. It's this book about a bunny who has 21 kids, and she puts like 2 of them on each.
Yes, the golden
boots
shoes.
bunny.
Yeah,
the golden bunny.
She's just the cutest book.
It's so cute,
And
but
she goes off and she has her own.
I was like, damn, this is the right system. You get
It's
2
true.
kids on cleanup duty, 2 kids on dinner, 2 kids on like.
You
it's
gotta
perfect.
you gotta teach them to do their chores.
But to your point about children needing different things from you and teaching you different things about yourself. I had like an astrology chart read as well, and it was I'm an Aquarius. My daughter is a Pisces, and the stereotypical like Aquarius is you're kind of divested from your emotions a little bit, or you live at like a little bit of more of an aloof stage. You're not as maybe aware of them or other people's emotions as you might need to be. And Pisces are just like receptive to everything. It's all they're just these emotional creatures. And she has taught me so much about how to be not just thoughtful of her emotions and how to talk to her through them and how to help her reason with them. But also like the way that she gets sensitive about things, and that part of me is like, why are you being sensitive about this? But then it forces me to access my emotions in a way that I think is really important for me, for my growth as well. Anyway, this reading was talking about how your kids are put here as much for you to teach them about life as for them to teach you about life. And they each do it in such different ways.
So true.
And my like son's a Libra, and he's the most loving, like when you're talking about him outlining your lips and, John's, I just want to love you. I just want you to hold me for a long time though, not just a little bit.
You're like, I'm going to hold you forever, and you're never going to get married, and you're going to be mine forever. I will hold you down.
And I will love you, I will hug you, and I will squeeze you.
Exactly. I'm never letting you go.
I'll never let you go.
It's true. But I feel like they teach us these things. And to my point about being a CEO and entrepreneur, you have to manage your employees differently, just like you have to mother your children differently. Like, it's not what you say, it's what people hear. And there are so many different types of employees, and there's so many different types of staff members. And it's so weird how one person will just gravitate towards one thing and ignore another. And I've really found that being a leader in my company has made me a better mother. And I've also found that I also know that like when I'm being the best mom I can be, when I'm being the best leader I can be, that like being present is the key to both. And I feel like it really, there's so much more crossover than you would think, just in terms of the different personalities and the different way people gravitate towards different things and what they hear from you. You really have to know how to take several different approaches to actually get through.
And to read people without them ever telling you what they actually need.
Yes,
which is tricky
totally.
Too. I want to talk about travel / like relocation, because your locations are in Texas, right? You live in LA. I imagine you want to travel with Armie when he's on location for movies as much as you can, like while the kids are little. How do you juggle that? How do you sort of?
It's definitely a lot. Like Armie's filming in London right now. I've been in New York. Basically, I was in New York 3 of the last 4 weeks for work, and then obviously the bakeries too. So I try to bring them as much as possible. I feel like, especially because she graduates from preschool next week, but preschool, they're so understanding, and she had been on 250 flights by the time she was 2 years old. Wow. And they're like most at home on airplanes. They really are. They are. And Ford is like, I think, old status on American, and he's just turned 3. But like, they're used to traveling, and they get so much from it. I really try to make everything an educational experience. Like if we're going to Italy, because Armie's filming there, I'm like, okay, we're doing flashcards. How many steps are on the Spanish steps? So when they see something, it resonates with them. Like I feel like I traveled so much when I was younger, but I didn't necessarily have have context to it. So what I do is I like make these flashcards for them about Big Ben and the history. So instead of like, they're not doing math yet, but they will say like 3 interesting things about something that they're going to see, about a park, like Hyde Park. How big is it? And they remember these things. And so then when they're actually seeing it for the first time or the second time or the third time, they have context, and it means something, and they're actually learning. And like Harper's teachers have been amazing. They said she absorbs so much because maybe it's because of like the flashcards, I don't know, but she absorbs so much when she comes back that we would never ask you to have her in class more than you have her out. And I know that changes when she's older, and especially like, the application process for kindergarten and stuff. Like you don't want to take up one of the 23 slots that you were so fortunate to have, and then pull your child out of school for months at a time. But I do think that there's always a balance, and I do think there's a way to learn wherever you are. And especially in Texas, like at the bakeries, they know, they have policy procedure. They know like why people are written up. They know what they're supposed to do. They put gloves. Like Harper loves to sweep the floor. They also know where we keep the graveyard, like anything that's damaged, we put under the bottom tray and then we sample it.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they're like,
I bet they remember
that
that part really well.
they're like the graveyard.
Exactly.
So like right when their friends come in, they're like, I'll take you to the graveyard, which sounds much darker than
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. When you said that, I was like, I don't know this thing.
It's cute. It's like every day's a birthday party for them at the bakery. Their friends are there. There's cake and there's Peppa Pig playing on the screen.
I mean, that sounds like
it's
a dream.
memories. I mean, I think as as they get older and you sort of figure out school thing, when we've talked to people who have similar life that you do, it's the most important thing is that you guys are all together as a family. Exactly. And you know what? Their childhood is going to be different just because the nature of who their parents are, and you kind of just have to go with it and do what's best for the family, and don't get so caught up in societal norms. Feel it out, and it's all gonna be okay.
And they love like seeing you work. Like they love being on set and seeing how like it's just really good for them, I think, to see their mom and dad earning a living
and doing what they love and doing it well. Like I think I totally agree. I think that we had someone on the podcast very early on talk about how she never references going to work as a chore or as something like she has to do. It's a privilege. I think she gets to do. I get to go and do something I love, and I'll teach you all about it. And that's why I think actually family businesses are so interesting in that way, because your kids will get access at a very early age to the kit and caboodle, and the dark side and the great side. And I think it is so rewarding for them to see you be happy doing something that you love. And being like in a diverse number of things too. I think they don't feel like they're married to one career path either, which is really exciting.
And hearing the good, bad, the ugly, like on the way to school, she hears me on conference calls talking about like issues we're having with quality control or, a new kitchen manager. And
you must have like halves of your brain that just like never connect. Like there's
I have like their windows in a computer.
You're like tabs open.
Minimize. But she's like, so what happened? The kitchen manager? I was like, well, we have a new kitchen manager. And she'd be like, that is like really important for them to hear. They can process so much more than we give them credit for.
100%.
And so I love making her part, making both of them like part of the whole picture.
I just remembered there's one thing I wanted to ask you about, follow-up question, because I was fascinated by your life goals that like you'd gone to 50 and 60, but what are your like, how do you break it down? Do you do 1 year goals and 5 year goals and 10 year goals, or like, and how does that, I think that motherhood can feel like Groundhog Day sometimes, and you forget about your goals. You're just like going through the motions because you're trying to get through the day. But I think it's important to have goals, and just to have it like your eye, not even your eye on the prize, but to have like the prize that you're envisioning for yourself at least available to you when in your moments of daydreaming.
No, I was talking to to my friend about this other day. I said, do you remember in our 20s when we would do like vision boards every 3 months, and the vision boards would change? And now sometimes I feel like you're just in the batter's box swinging at anything that comes your way. Like instead of being on offense, you're on defense. And it's great when opportunities come your way, but there was a time where you're like, this is actually what I'm following up, and I will pursue this relentlessly. And just by nature of time management and only having 24 hours in these beautiful days, and children that require those precious hours, sometimes it feels like the only time I can get things done is from 2 to 4. Like sometimes I'll put them down. I'm writing our cookbook right now, and I am so past my deadline. It's not even funny.
Don't even. We can't even talk about deadlines.
Right? I mean, I'm like, so has like anyone ever been this late? She's like, well, a few. But
I hope she didn't mention me by name. Like a year and a half late.
I know. It's just like, I mean, but sometimes I find that like putting them down at 9:30 or 10 and then waking up at midnight, and I can only do this when my husband's not there, because otherwise you feel like then that should be your time for him. Like, like midnight to 4 is the magic hour now.
Oh, wow.
And then you start your day. And so I feel like really the thing I sacrifice the most is sleep, which isn't good either. But back to the goals, I think that like that having that me time to write them down and to still be really mindful of how those may have shifted. Like I feel like my goals are still the same for me, that they have always been, and definitely in the same vein, truly like all in that same direction. And I feel like I'm always moving there, and sometimes I feel like I'm moving more slowly than I would like, but keeping them visual. And I love a vision board still. Like
I'm a big fan.
And I put them in my day timer. Like instead, I used to have them in my room or whatever. Now, if there's a picture or something, I'm still write everything down. I'm like such a grandma. I will do things electronically, but I like to write down like my schedule. I like to write down.
But don't you think there's an element, because I am a planner in so many different ways, but I am a very like loose planner.
Yeah.
Like if you asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago if my life would be what it is right now, I would be like, not in a million years. And I think that an element of what has allowed me to get and seek different opportunities is that I didn't have so much of a plan. And I would like meet you and be like, yeah, let's go do this. And we'd like run off and do this. Yeah. And then I'd be like, really, I was always very open to other experiences. And I think that's one of the reasons that I am where I am. I mean, that being said, there's not only one way to do absolutely everything, but I was always afraid of that question, where are you going to be in 5 years, you know? Yeah. Because I was afraid that that was going to limit me.
I do think that's the beauty of having children. They teach you that though, right? So like I was super OCD, like type A, and now I'm like, someone's like, you might have to be on a plane tomorrow at New York at 4. I'm like, okay, just let me know by 2.
So you have a plan, but you're flexible with the plan.
I think, I can, yes, 1,000,000%. And also, again, very last minute, if you were like, you should be at LAX now, I'm like, okay, I can do that. I'll be right there. We'll make it happen. And I do think like you just learn to adapt as you get older and as you have kids and as you have more going on, you have more balls in the air. Like I always say, and I tell my staff this, I'm like, delegation, and if one ball falls, that's fine. And like one of the biggest challenges I have with a lot of my managers is saying, I know you want to do it all, and I know you're going to do it 100%. But if you have your assistant manager or someone under you do it and it's 70%, I'm not mad about that, because you know what? You're preserving yourself. And so much of like what I've learned as a mom not only happened in my upbringing with 4 children and a mom that really instilled a lot of trust in me is I've learned through my management in my company. Mm-hmm. And 70% can be okay if you are preserving yourself and doing everything else. Like it's
and you can do it consistently.
Yes. Yeah. So I think you have to be open to change and shifting and opportunities and whatever comes your way. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, I don't know. Don't you also sometimes feel like you're on the defensive? And not on the offense?
You don't want to. I think I want it both ways, because I never want to feel like a ship bobbing on the ocean, like with just letting the tides take me wherever I go.
You're still doing things.
No, you're always doing. But that's one thing is too. I don't want to be doing more. I want to be doing smarter.
I would say I'm branching in, not out. People are like, can I get your number? I'm like, I don't need any more friends.
No, but truly, there's a finite amount of time in your day, and I do. My friend, like when leaning in was like a big thing, she was like, I just want to lean back. I just want to like lie down and like.
I want to be in the fetal position.
Like in the
but that's the
fetal
thing
position.
is, I think if you have so much like put that pressure on yourself of like so many goals and stuff like that sometimes you can forget about the process, and you can forget about the path and putting one foot in front of the other one, being present, because you're so focused out there.
True. You need to enjoy the process as much as the outcome. But I think it's important. I think because, look, we live in a time that in many ways is amazing, because we can pursue so many things, and there are fewer barriers to entry on a lot of things that we, like you said, we don't have to apprentice for 40 years before opening a bakery. But because you can run at so many different things, I think you can spread yourself very thin that way. And if you don't have a vision for yourself of like, here's where I think, again, it's a thought process. Here's where I think I would be happy in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years. And you let your life change that. You like, obviously you stay awake and stay open to the opportunities that present themselves. I also am a believer that you put it in the universe. You start to create opportunities that fulfill into that goal that you have. But I just feel like, otherwise, you find yourself running at anything that comes your way, as opposed to having a strategy that lets you feel confident that this is building me towards what I want down the line.
I think it has to be a mix. I mean, I started a business when I was 24. I opened up a yoga studio. I opened it when I was 25, but we started the planning thing when I was 24. Actually, no, still is 24. It's 2 days before my birthday. And it was really, as you said, it was really hard. I was there absolutely every single day. I started work at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was there until 10:30 p.m. every single day out of the year. And it was hard because, I broke my hip 3 weeks before, so I was in a wheelchair. And
Doing yoga?
I was a dancer as well. It was like just too much of everything. I made my money. I had no money, and I made my money through exercise and teaching exercise. So you can't stop. Mm-hmm. And so I was having pain, and I had bad medical care, and I went to doctors, and they sent me away with painkillers, and eventually I literally broke my leg all the way through. So we opened up the studio, and I was, it was hard because as we, I taught all the classes, and then eventually we had some money to be able to pay like $20 for a class or something like that for an instructor. And we, but then people let you down. And people don't have the same work ethic that you do.
They're not as committed. Or
right.
invested.
But for me, I started finding out that what I loved about the yoga wasn't managing. I didn't like managing. I didn't like being the boss. Do I like being a boss? Absolutely. But I didn't like being the boss because I don't like a lot of conflict with people. I want us all to be happy.
Yeah.
I want to like sit down, we're namaste, it's all great. And then all of a sudden, like, yoga, that was my passion, turned into being this, like, I'm chasing people down. I had to sleep with my phone right next to my face so that if anyone got sick and canceled for, like, the 7 a.m. class when I was, in the middle of the night, that I had to change around my privates that I started teaching at 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was like just so dramatic. And I think that if I had been so focused on, okay, the growth of the company, where it's going to be, and I just like let it, I also didn't think it was going to be as successful as it. Now it has 4 locations, and they're opening up like a retreat center as well. Like, I didn't think that it was going to be that successful. And I think that if I hadn't lived the process, just for my process, my mentality, I'm not saying this is the way, this is just the way that I did, that I think that I would have boxed myself in.
But think about how much you learned about yourself through that. Like I think that's what look, again, like I said, you don't know what's going to make you happy. You don't know exactly how these are going to work out or come to be or not come to be. And you may have goals for yourself that actually would make you miserable. Like, if owning a yoga studio is a goal, and then it turns out that what you love to do is teach yoga and do yoga, but not necessarily the, the auxiliary stuff around it. You have to learn from that too. I'm always curious about how people like sort of, I think a lot of successful people do have at least, and it's not just like a diffuse thing in their head, it's written down. And there is something psychosomatic about that, like a literally writing with your hand what you will to be. And I think I'm always really intrigued by how people sort of figure that out.
It's absolutely fascinating. But I also think about that with my relationship with Alec. I was dating the same kind of guy over and over and over again. And if you ask me, am I going to be with an actor I grew up with no TV? I still don't watch TV. I hate the idea of going and sitting down and watching a movie makes me anxious because I hate sitting down. And the only reason I can do this is because we're chatting the whole time. But it's like, I should say, sitting down and being silent and watching the screen.
Yes.
I just like it.
Or like walking into a movie theater in the middle of a beautiful day and sitting in a dark.
And it's like, why are you doing that? People like invite you, like, oh, let's go watch a movie together. I'm like, why? We're not even talking the entire time. We might as well be alone. But like the idea that I would be with somebody who's so much older than me, completely different values. He's so different than me in so many different ways. The only reason that I allowed myself to be open to that opportunity was I realized my plan isn't working. Me dating these guys who are my age and like don't have their shit together, and like, they're like, the biggest battle in the relationship is feeling like you're chasing them down and like, oh, is he gonna call me back? And oh, is he gonna text me back? What did it mean when he said hi? The text message is sending a screenshot to like all of your friends. You know what I mean? And like literally
also, dating pre-emoji. We
had
no.
You're so right.
We had no flexibility.
A lot of questions.
And where can we follow you?
Elizabeth Chambers on Instagram, or really, I just on the gram.